Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto nerds of all ages, my name is Monty Allen, and I am your crypto nerd. Today we're going to dive into why Algorand is the environmental blockchain that we all need. You may not have even realized that we need an environmental blockchain, but think about it. If the blockchain is going to be part of our future, and I definitely believe that it is, we need one that's not going to negatively impact our environment. So let's dive into these reasons and check them out. Coming in at the top 10 is the fact that we have a pure proof of stake. Not a proof of work, proof of stake, and none of that delegated proof of stake nonsense. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, I want you to realize that the energy output needed to mine Bitcoin this year, and it's 2021, is going to outpace the energy consumption of Switzerland, an entire country, not just Switzerland, lots of other countries. Bitcoin consumption is ridiculous. It's out of hand. You see folks like Elon Musk tweeting about it, and you see lots of folks concerned about the environmental impact, and it's primarily because of proof of work. Now, Bitcoin's not the only one. The Ethereum network is switching over to proof of stake. They haven't done it yet, but even their proof of stake won't be the most energy efficient. Now, a lot of times we talk about proof of stake, and it is a delegated proof of stake. Delegated proof of stake is still energy effective, however, it consolidates power, consolidates choices into, let's say, 20 folks, because everybody who's staking allocates theirs to somebody who's going to vote on their behalf, a proxy. And so 20 or so folks end up consolidating power. With a pure proof of stake, that doesn't happen. It remains decentralized and environmentally friendly. Coming in at number 9, we've got a partnership with ClimateTrade. Now, ClimateTrade has made a lot of waves recently with their peatland initiative in Indonesia. Algorand contributes to this, and they've got some joint partnerships, and it's a fantastic program. But that's not just the only program that ClimateTrade has. Now, ClimateTrade allows companies to offset their carbon footprint. So if you use energy, and let's face it, almost every company does, right? If you use energy, you're making a carbon footprint. Now, to offset that, you can invest in projects. Now, the tricky thing is, as we learn a little later, how to make sure that those projects are actually getting the return on the carbon footprint that we want. ClimateTrade makes that transparent, makes it easy to verify, and it's a great cause. In fact, if you are out in the world right now and you want to make a difference, if you want to help with replanting trees or farming, agriculture, if you want to help in some positive way, get in touch with ClimateTrade. Maybe you can benefit from some of these companies that want to offset their carbon footprint. It's a great, great program. Number 8, we've got a partnership with PlanetWatch. Now, PlanetWatch was one of the very first, if not the very first, environmental partnership that I think that Algorand announced way back in January 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the partnership here is really a spin-off from CERN. Yeah, you heard me correctly, CERN. That's CERN, the largest physics laboratory basically on the planet. You know, that big giant spinny thing. So what they have here is low-cost air sensors, and they've placed them all over. And they have paid these folks essentially with the Planet token that runs on Algorand. It's an ASA, which is sort of like an ERC20 token for Ethereum, if that makes it easier for you. And so folks are compensated to run these air sensors, and the data from these air sensors really makes a difference because it's the data that's really important. So we can monitor the air, pollutions, the contaminants, the quality of the air. So we're watching the planet, and through Algorand, because Algorand is already energy efficient, it makes sense to run the Planet token and the PlanetWatch system all through that blockchain. So Algorand is making a difference with PlanetWatch, and I'm really, really impressed. This program's been going on now for, 18 months, something along those lines now, and I'm so excited to see the continued results that come from the partnership there. Number 7. Let's just talk about the leadership team here. So we've got Silvio McCallie, we've got Sean Ford, we've got Steve Kokonos, we've got Kelly Callahan. We see Kelly all the time in the community. Now, Kelly, Silvio, we see you folks all the time, but what really impresses me is the amount of time that we see Silvio mention the environment. And that was really one of the driving forces for founding Algorand in the first place. Go look at some of the original information that led up to Algorand, and it was the environmental impact. This is first and foremost in the leadership team's communication, their foundation, what they're aiming for, what their difference is, their why. When you look at Sean does a lot of these blogs or video, informational interviews, and a lot of these companies, it's brought up about the environmental impact, and he is well versed, articulate, and you can tell that he's passionate about the environmental impact or lack of environmental impact that Algorand is making, that carbon offset that we talked about just a little while ago. And I can't say that enough or stress that enough, because if these folks weren't leading the company, if it wasn't a priority for them, do you really think these partnerships would come to fruition? Do you really think the foundation would do the things that it's doing? I think not. I think because the company was founded this way, that those cultural philosophies have really kind of permeated the whole feeling through Algorand. The fact that it is the environmental blockchain is important, and that comes from the top. Number 6. So let's talk about the low cost of gas, or what would have been gas, the low cost of transactions, and how that's going to draw in NFTs and all sorts of other activities that have taken place on ETH, not just NFTs. Now, granted, ETH was a primary focus, a primary ecosystem for the NFTs, but already you can tell that there's a large portion of the folks who didn't realize. They got into the NFTs because they thought, oh, well, I'm artistic and this is just the way you do it, and this is the biggest ecosystem there is there. But then they realized how expensive it was, and a lot of folks who are artists are also concerned about the environment. And so they realize, hey, we're damaging the environment here. Let's find a better way. And now we're seeing more and more folks move over to the Algorand blockchain. There's a lot of really cool things going on with NFTs. And NFTs are not just for artists and different kinds of music, perhaps. NFTs can be used in a lot of different ways. Non-fungible tokens aren't limited to an artwork. So keep your eye on the NFT space, because Algorand, every time an algo is minted, in fact, there was an article created by Kasimi Basi, I believe. Double check me on that, internet. I know you're good for those things. But take a look at his cost of printing an NFT on Algorand. Now, what's interesting is he didn't put a cost to this in fiat. He put a cost to this in CO2. So when he allocated the cost of minting an NFT on Algorand, it was like 0.6 zeros. It was 0.000004, carbon CO2, output, and which is really, really low. So take a look at the low output cost of transferring and for minting, because essentially when you mint something on Algo, you're transferring. You have to send a transaction there. And gas on ETH is just ridiculous. It's been a hot point, a hot topic for quite a while in the cryptocurrency community. And there's a better way. There just is a better way. And it all has to do with that pure proof of stake. It is just an easier transaction. It's more efficient. And so it's less costly. So we don't have to pass that cost on to you, and you can still do the right thing. Start minting more on Algorand. All right. I'll get off my soapbox there. Number 5, the FLRCHAIN, FLR. So this stands for Forest Landscape Restoration. Now, this is actually a combination of a few different groups. We'll talk about one of them in just a few minutes here. But basically, the FLRCHAIN is very similar to ClimateTRADE, except there's a few projects in there like dedicated to forest landscape restoration. So it makes it easy with the ALGO chain to set in place smart contracts. So if you want transparency, if you want to know that your dollar in these projects is actually making a difference, you can set up smart contracts. So you can take a picture of your reforested area, and that triggers the verification. So now you have that instant transparency, and you cut out all of the middlemen. So one of the worst things about nonprofits is that that not all of your money makes it to the end user. Well, projects like FLRCHAIN make sure that more of your money, more of your donations, and if you're a company trying to offset something or do the right thing, more of your funds get to where they're going, where they have the impact. It's not just people with their hand held out along the way. And I really appreciate that. And these folks are trying to do the right thing. And it's nice to have an impact directly. You eliminate all of the fuss in between, and you really get to see what kind of an impact you have. All right. All the way up to number 4 already. So we've got a partnership with Global Carbon Holding. So this is really kind of like the granddaddy of offset tokens. So we're talking about deforestation, and tokens here remove friction and get money where it belongs. Much more like the FLRCHAIN, except on a grander scale. So we've got lots of projects to choose from and corporate projects. So Global Carbon Holding has lots of candidates, lots of investors, and if you're a big company that has, an impact on the environment, and you do, you want to offset it, you reach out to a third party like Carbon Holding who can get those funds out. Now, they're not direct like the FLRCHAIN, however, they are as direct as you're gonna get. So it's kind of like a clearinghouse of folks who have projects. They can partner and they will act as the middleman, and it's frictionless because of the ALGO tokens. So I like the Carbon Holding combination that we've got here. Great group, well established. They have all the connections that are needed, and they've been established for quite a while. All right, GAIACHAIN. Number 1, I love the name, GAIACHAIN. Number 2, their CEO, guy named, I wrote it down, Brad Moley. Brad Moley has been working for 20 years with NGOs. So he's got 20 years, and then he decided, hey, I want to figure out a way to have fintech help ecosystems and people. So the GAIACHAIN is really a nice introduction, and they partnered with the IUCN. Now, I don't know what the I stands for, but the U is the Union of Conservation of Nature. All right, so the Union of Conservation of Nature. Now, they actually combined with Algorand and to make that FLRCHAIN that we talked about just a little bit ago. But the GAIACHAIN folks really are kind of, I feel like, the driving force here because of the 20 years of history working directly with the NGOs, having their contacts, having them kind of facilitate and monitor and put together all of the pieces to the puzzle. When you have a project like this, you really need someone who knows all of the parties involved. And really, Brad seems like the guy who's kind of pulled all the pieces of the puzzle together and made this happen. And it's a great project. Go check it out. On its own, they did great things, raised $300,000 directly for a couple of agencies, and then we're able to combine with ALGO and put together some projects like the FLRCHAIN. All right, we're getting into the top 2 here. So let's talk about the Algorand Foundation. Now, there's a lot of noise around the Algorand Foundation recently. I think probably because there's some governance issues and there's some voting and who's got the stakes and those types of things. But just think about the foundation in a grander scale. The foundation determines grants. It determines who they're going to sponsor, who they're going to partner with. The Algorand Foundation itself is blessed with a lot of funds. A lot of money in the form of ALGO has been created. Now, what do we do with those? Do we use them for good in some way, shape, or form? And this goes back to the leadership, because the leadership team has really outlined what they expect to be done with the Algorand Foundation. And it's just up to us to pursue those dreams, to make them a reality, to push it to the next level, and we certainly can. The fact that the Algorand Foundation exists at all, and their purpose, their drive, their direction, really should point you in the direction of being environmentally safe, cautious, being environmentally conscientious. It's one of those things that is just vital. It's just vital, folks. Now, the biggest thing, the largest thing, the fact that Algorand is not just carbon neutral now. They have committed to being carbon negative. And I haven't really seen this before. So a lot of companies, they just want to be carbon neutral. They just want to tread water, right? So companies would be really happy if they could spend enough money to offset all of the negative impact that they made in the world. And there's a lot of speculation that those things aren't really accurate, that they don't really work. There's, does the money that they spend actually produce enough carbon? Now you can tell Algorand is trying to fix that issue. They're trying to get transparency. They're trying to make sure that the funds actually get to the folks who are farming, who safely and effectively, who are working against deforestation, who are working towards bettering the environment. And so Algorand has actually committed not just to tread water, not just to be carbon neutral, but to be carbon negative. To invest more in our world, to invest more in our environment, to be better than it was when they started. And that's really it. When you go to someone's house or you borrow something, the goal is to return it better than it was before. Algorand is doing that. They want to return a better earth than the one that they came into. And that makes a difference. So yes, it does all these other things. We can use it for DeFi, and we can use it for NFT, and yeah, it's the futurefi, and it's frictionless, and it doesn't cost us a whole lot of money. But what it does, it's a better system. It is a way for us to actually improve the earth by doing the things that we do already. Go ahead and spend the money, borrow the money, lend the money. Go ahead and do all of those things. But if we do it with ALGO, we'll make the world a better place as a byproduct. And I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty good thing. So there you have it. 10 reasons why Algorand is the environmental blockchain that you didn't know you needed, but you definitely do. My name is Monty Allen. I am your crypto nerd. We'll see you next time.